I had been planning a little surprise for days. My husband, Mark, had been buried in work lately, and I missed the man I used to see in the evenings, smiling over a cup of coffee, joking about nothing. So when he mentioned a long meeting at work today, I decided to turn it into an opportunity. I pictured the look on his face when I walked into his office, carrying his favorite chocolate croissants and a little note, "You're my hero. Don't forget it." My heart fluttered just thinking about it. I imagined the hug, the shared laughter, the brief escape from the chaos of our routines. I left home early, hiding the croissants in my bag and trying not to feel the nervous excitement bubbling inside me. As I drove to his office, memories of our early days together flashed through my mind. How carefree we were, how we thought work could never come between us. By the time I parked, my stomach was a bundle of anticipation. This small gesture felt so important. More than anything, I just wanted him to feel appreciated, even if only for a few moments. Little did I know, the meeting I was about to interrupt was unlike anything I had imagined, and it would change the way I saw Mark forever. I walked into the sleek office building, my confidence masking the jitters. I had been in this lobby a few times with Mark, but today I felt like a secret agent on a mission. I pressed the elevator button, rehearsing the words I'd say when I saw him. "Hey, surprise." I practiced it silently. "I thought I'd bring you a little treat. You deserve it." The elevator doors opened, and I took a deep breath. Mark's floor. I strode down the hallway, trying to ignore the rapid beat of my heart. And then I saw him. Mark was there, but he wasn't alone. A group of people sat around a large table, and he was speaking in front of them, pointing at slides on a screen. He looked different, confident, commanding, almost intimidating. My stomach sank a little. I tried to wave, but he didn't notice. I thought maybe he hadn't seen me yet. So I cleared my throat softly. "Mark?" That's when his eyes met mine. For a second, I saw confusion flicker across his face. And then he smiled, but not the same warm, relaxed smile I had pictured. This one was professional, almost distant. My chest tightened. I had expected a simple, sweet moment. Instead, I had walked into something unfamiliar. I lingered at the edge of the room, unsure if I should interrupt. Mark glanced at me briefly, then returned to the screen, continuing as if nothing had changed. The people around the table nodded at his words, jotting notes, clearly impressed. I watched him and felt a strange mixture of pride and sadness. Pride because he looked so capable, so admired. Sadness because this wasn't the Mark I knew, at least not the one who came home tired, but laughing, who held my hand while we watched silly TV shows. Minutes passed. I tried to remember why I was there, chocolate croissants, a little surprise, love. But I felt invisible in this room, like an intruder in a world I hadn't been invited to. Then Mark wrapped up his presentation, and people started clapping. Relief washed over me. Finally, our moment, I thought. He would see me now. But instead of coming over, he addressed the group. "Before we leave, I want to introduce someone very important," he said, scanning the room. My heart raced. Could it be me? Was he finally about to include me in his world? I took a cautious step forward, smiling nervously, ready to be part of his moment. Mark gestured toward me. "This is my wife, Emma. She's been my rock, and she inspires me every single day." I blinked. The room fell silent. My heart skipped a beat. Did he just introduce me to his colleagues. I wasn't prepared for an audience, but before I could respond, he continued, "Actually, today's meeting isn't just a work thing. I wanted to share a project that's very close to my heart, something I've been working on in secret." The group leaned in. I felt a flicker of nervousness. "In secret?" I whispered. "Yes," he said, looking at me. "I've been trying to do something meaningful, and I wanted Emma to be the first to know." The words hit me like a wave. I had come expecting a simple hug and a chocolate croissant. Instead, I was about to witness a side of him I had never imagined. Mark tapped a button, and a slide appeared on the screen. It wasn't about finances or marketing. It was about something different. A community initiative, a nonprofit he had quietly started months ago, aimed at helping underprivileged children access education. I felt tears prick at my eyes. All this time, he had been working tirelessly, not for recognition, not for a promotion, but for something bigger than himself, for something that mattered. He explained the details: local schools, volunteer programs, partnerships with other organizations. Every statistic, every story he shared made the room more animated, but it was his tone, the quiet passion in his voice, that shook me. He glanced at me, and I realized that this was why he had seemed so distant lately. It wasn't work stress, it was purpose, a calling. My mind raced. I had thought surprises were about small gestures. I had no idea he was living a life I barely knew existed. After the presentation, the room erupted in applause. People came forward to shake his hand, congratulate him, ask questions. And I just stood there, stunned. I felt an odd mix of pride and regret. Pride for the man I married, his heart, his courage, his vision. Regret because I had been so focused on tiny gestures that I had missed seeing the depth of his life outside our home. I realized then that love isn't just about surprises or chocolates. It's about recognizing the struggles, the passions, and the quiet heroism of the person beside you. Mark caught my eye again, smiling softly. "I wanted you to see this first, Em. I wanted you to understand why I've been so distant lately." I nodded, choking back emotion. "I get it," I whispered. "I see you." He turned to the room. "And I want all of you to meet someone who has supported me in ways words can't capture. Emma has been my inspiration, my anchor through everything." I felt the weight of the moment. These people, who had known Mark as a professional powerhouse, were now seeing the woman who had stood behind him, me. A few colleagues smiled warmly, some nodded respectfully. I realized this small gesture, introducing me, was his way of weaving our personal lives into his professional world, of sharing his gratitude publicly. Then he said softly, "And if anyone wants to volunteer for the program, Emma would love to help coordinate. She's been part of this from the start, even if she didn't know it." I froze. Me? Volunteer? My world had just expanded in a way I hadn't anticipated. On the way home, the elevator ride felt surreal. I clutched the bag of forgotten croissants, my mind spinning. Mark reached for my hand, intertwining our fingers. "You okay?" he asked gently. I nodded, though words felt inadequate. "I'm amazed," I admitted, "and also a little embarrassed for thinking I knew everything about your world." He laughed softly. "You know me at home, but some things take time to reveal." I realized that love isn't just the visible parts, the dinners, the hugs, the shared routines. Sometimes it's about noticing the hidden layers, the passions that don't always touch our daily lives. And I wanted to be part of it, not just as a bystander, but as an active participant. The next day, I emailed Mark's team, asking how I could help with the program. To my surprise, they responded immediately, grateful for any assistance. As I planned my first volunteer day, I felt a mix of nervousness and excitement. I would be stepping into a new part of Mark's life, one I hadn't fully understood before. When Mark saw my email, he smiled. "See, you're already making an impact." I felt a warmth spread through me. Love, I realized, isn't static. It grows when you embrace the unknown, when you step into the worlds your partner creates, and when you support their dreams, even quietly. That evening, Mark and I sat together, eating dinner in a comfortable silence. I watched him, not just the husband I knew, but the man whose heart had quietly been shaping the lives of others. I felt gratitude, awe, and a renewed connection. The meeting had left me speechless, yes, but not for the reasons I had expected. It wasn't the surprise I had planned that mattered. It was the revelation that love and admiration are deeper than gestures. They are about seeing, understanding, and supporting the person you care about in all the dimensions of their life. And as I reached for his hand, I knew this was just the beginning of a new chapter, one where we could grow together, not just in love, but in purpose. I arrived at the community center early, my heart pounding. Today, I wasn't just Emma, the wife who brought croissants. I was Emma, the partner in a mission that Mark had quietly devoted himself to. The room buzzed with activity: children drawing, volunteers setting up desks, tutors arranging books. Mark appeared beside me, giving me a reassuring nod. "Just follow your instincts," he whispered. At first, I felt awkward. The children didn't know me, and I wasn't sure how to connect. But then, a small boy named Liam held out a crayon and offered me a drawing. His shy smile broke through my nervousness. Hours passed in a blur of laughter, encouragement, and occasional chaos. I realized that this wasn't just Mark's world. It could be mine too. I felt a sense of purpose I hadn't known existed, and Mark's pride in me was palpable. By the end of the day, exhausted but exhilarated, I understood something crucial. Love isn't just about being present. It's about showing up, even in worlds you haven't fully explored before. And I wanted to keep showing up side by side with him. That evening, as we walked home, Mark shared stories of the kids, their struggles, and their triumphs. I listened, captivated, realizing that even the smallest gestures, reading a story, tutoring a lesson, could create ripples of change. It dawned on me that he had been living this philosophy for months without telling me. The man I thought I knew so well had layers of compassion and drive that I hadn't fully grasped. I thought about my own life and the little things I had taken for granted: the kindness of a smile, the time spent listening, the moments we assume are insignificant. Love and impact, I realized, were often hidden in these small acts. By the time we reached home, I felt more connected to Mark than ever before, not just to the husband I had married, but to the man quietly shaping the world. As the weeks went on, I joined Mark more regularly. But volunteering wasn't always easy. Some days were frustrating: children who refused to participate, limited resources, logistical hurdles. One afternoon, I found myself on the verge of tears after trying to calm a group of overwhelmed students. Mark came over, placing a hand on my shoulder. "You're not alone in this," he said softly. "We'll figure it out together." I realized then that marriage, like life, wasn't just about sharing joys. It was about facing challenges together, supporting each other when the path gets tough. Mark's calm patience and quiet guidance reminded me why I had fallen in love with him, and I knew that by standing with him in this work, I wasn't just helping others, I was deepening the foundation of our love. One day, a mother approached me, tears in her eyes. "Thank you for what you're doing," she said. "You don't know how much this program has changed our lives." Her words hit me harder than I expected. I had come to volunteer because I wanted to support Mark, but I realized that I was also part of something larger than myself. Mark, standing beside me, squeezed my hand. "See, every effort counts," he said. And I felt the truth of it in my bones. Impact isn't always about recognition. Sometimes it's the silent, unseen changes that matter most. Through these experiences, Mark and I began to grow in new ways. We brainstormed ideas, organized events, and faced setbacks together. Every problem we solved strengthened our bond. I noticed subtle changes in myself. I was more patient, more empathetic, more willing to step outside my comfort zone. And Mark, in turn, shared more of his vulnerabilities and dreams. It struck me that marriage isn't just about companionship, it's about growth. Love thrives when two people evolve together, supporting each other's purpose. One evening, after a long day, we sat on the porch, watching the sunset. The kids from the program had left, the desks were cleared, and the air was filled with the soft hum of crickets. "I never imagined this," I said quietly. "That volunteering could bring us closer, teach me so much about you, about us." Mark smiled, leaning against me. "Sometimes the best surprises aren't the ones we plan. They're the ones that reveal the depth of what we already have." I realized he was right. Life's surprises often come disguised as challenges, as lessons, as moments that force us to see beyond our expectations. And love, when nurtured, can make those moments unforgettable. Mark proposed a new idea, creating a mentorship program within the nonprofit to help older kids transition to high school. I immediately said yes. Working on this together, we brainstormed strategies, connected with local volunteers, and even secured donations. Each small victory brought us closer and reminded me how powerful shared purpose can be. Through this, I saw another side of Mark, his vision, his resilience, and his unwavering belief that even small efforts can spark real change. I felt proud, humbled, and inspired all at once. Months later, the nonprofit hosted a small community event to celebrate the children's achievements. I watched Mark on stage, speaking passionately, and then he called me up. "I couldn't have done this without her," he said, his voice steady, eyes glistening. "Emma has been my partner, my confidant, my inspiration. She's not just my wife, she's a hero to these kids too." Applause filled the room. I felt my cheeks burn, not from pride alone, but from the profound realization that love is a shared journey of purpose, sacrifice, and mutual respect. That night, Mark and I sat together, reflecting on the journey. I realized that the surprise I had planned months ago, the chocolate croissants, the small gesture, wasn't what mattered most. What mattered was the connection, the growth, the shared mission. Love isn't about perfect moments or flawless gestures. It's about showing up, learning, adapting, and supporting each other's dreams, sometimes quietly, sometimes boldly. I felt deeply grateful for the meeting that had left me speechless, because it had revealed the true depth of my husband's heart and the potential within our love. Months later, Mark and I walked hand in hand through a park near the community center. Children laughed in the distance, volunteers chatted, and the sun shone warmly on our faces. I looked at him and smiled. "You've changed my world," I said softly. "And you've changed mine," he replied. We had started with a small surprise, but it became a journey, one of discovery, growth, and shared purpose. The meeting that left me speechless had taught me more about love than I could have imagined. That it's not static, not simple, and not always visible. But when nurtured, it transforms lives. As we walked together, I knew that our story was just beginning, and that we would continue surprising each other in the most profound ways imaginable.